Hi, I'm Lauren, a 33-year-old woman who recently navigated the difficult waters of divorce. I once believed I was deeply in love, living in what seemed like a perfect relationship. However, a closer look revealed that my marriage was riddled with issues that ultimately led to its unraveling. Let's rewind to the beginning. I first met Mark through a mutual friend, and there was an instant spark between us. He was not only handsome but also possessed a captivating personality that drew me in. After 3 years of what appeared to be a harmonious relationship, we decided to tie the knot. Our shared values and mutual compromises painted an idyllic picture, but lurking beneath the surface was a significant challenge: Mark's parents, Julian and Ronald, who were anything but welcoming. My first encounter with Julian and Ronald was strikingly cold. At dinner, I noticed there were only 2 plates set at the table, none for me. Confusion and embarrassment washed over me, especially as Mark stayed silent. When I pointed out the oversight, Julian feigned ignorance, claiming she had forgotten I was there. The rest of the evening was a struggle, with Julian and Ronald openly belittling me while Mark chose to remain silent. In hindsight, this was a glaring red flag. Eager to escape the uncomfortable situation, I was torn between confronting Mark about his lack of support and retreating into silence. The car ride home was thick with tension. When we arrived, I waited for Mark to acknowledge the evening, but he acted as if nothing had happened. Frustrated, I finally spoke up. "We need to talk," I said. He dismissed me, saying he was going to bed. His avoidance only fueled my anger. I confronted him about his silence, and he defended himself by saying he couldn't disrespect his parents in their own home. This moment made me realize that he might never truly be on my side. I wasn't asking for him to insult his parents, I simply wanted a shred of respect from them. I understood family dynamics. My own parents wouldn't tolerate such behavior. Yet Mark continued to defend his parents, leaving me questioning if he truly grasped how their actions affected me. "Can we just drop this?" "I'm going to bed," he replied, leaving me feeling hurt and confused. I hoped embarrassment was the root of his reaction, but that night, I went to bed feeling hollow, the weight of our conversation lingering. The next day, Mark acted as if nothing was wrong, which only fueled my frustration. For 2 weeks, I gave him the silent treatment, waiting for an apology that never materialized. Despite my anger, I wasn't ready to let this incident define us. Eventually, I reluctantly resumed talking to him, and we made an unspoken agreement to avoid visiting Julian and Ronald again, a pact that held until our wedding day. On our wedding day, I did my best to keep my distance from Mark's parents, dreading any interaction. But avoidance was not a sustainable solution. During the reception, they approached us with congratulations. "There's my handsome son and his lovely wife." "Congratulations," they exclaimed. "Thank you," we responded, somewhat mechanically. As the conversation shifted to our honeymoon plans and we mentioned the Seychelles, they unexpectedly offered to fund our trip. Though initially hesitant due to budget constraints, this gesture made me reflect on the complexities of family relationships. However, there was a catch: "We'd like to join you and make it a group vacation," they proposed. Mark was enthusiastic about the idea, but I felt cornered. A honeymoon, to me, was meant to be an intimate escape for the newlyweds, not a family outing. While Venice was a dream destination for me, sharing this special time with others, especially given the past tensions, was far from ideal. Excusing myself, I made my way to the restroom, a mix of disappointment and frustration churning within me. I had envisioned the intimacy of our honeymoon as a precious time for just the 2 of us, regardless of whether it was in the Seychelles or Venice. Yet here I was, feeling sidelined in a decision that should have been ours. The rest of the reception felt painfully drawn out, my spirits dampened by the unexpected turn of events. The car ride home was steeped in silence, mirroring the emotional fatigue that had settled over me. I didn't have the energy to voice my feelings then. Instead, I resolved to sleep on it. But the next morning, the discontent still gnawed at me, prompting me to bring it up with Mark. "I need to talk to you about something that's been bothering me," I started, trying to articulate my disappointment over how the honeymoon plans had unfolded. Mark, however, viewed the situation through a different lens, focusing on the excitement of Venice and his parents' seemingly generous offer. "It's not about the destination," I emphasized. "It's about us making decisions together, especially for something as personal as our honeymoon." Mark reassured me that there would be plenty of chances for us to be alone in the future, urging me to look on the bright side of their offer. Yet my concern ran deeper than just the immediate plans. "Given how your parents have treated me, do you really think this is a good idea?" I asked, searching for confirmation that we were prioritizing our relationship. Mark tried to ease my worries, framing his parents' involvement as a kind gesture rather than an intrusion. "Stop overthinking it. Let's not ruin this opportunity," he said, presenting it as a chance for us to explore a new place together. But all I wanted was for us to have a say in our own honeymoon plans. Was it too much to ask for a decision made by us, for us? "You can come or not, but focus on the positive," Mark suggested, hoping to redirect my attention to the adventure ahead. This left me grappling with the tension between seizing an opportunity and maintaining my autonomy, particularly in the delicate dynamics of our newlywed life. It was tough when Mark brushed aside my feelings, making me question whether he'd really be okay with me opting out of what was meant to be our special time together. Despite my reluctance, I chose to go along with the plans, holding on to a flicker of hope. The trip was set for a month after the wedding, and upon arriving at the airport, Julian and Ronald's unexpectedly warm welcome threw me off balance. Their kindness was a stark contrast to their usual behavior, leaving me guarded and unsure of this sudden change. The first week in Italy unfolded with their pleasant demeanor, which slowly allowed me to let my guard down, thinking maybe things had turned a corner. However, as the second week began, familiar patterns re-emerged. They critiqued my attire, with Julian questioning my fashion choices. Days went by when they planned outings to upscale venues, deliberately leaving me out and claiming my outfit was too embarrassing, despite receiving compliments from locals. As the vacation progressed, they found new ways to exclude me, often whisking Mark away for most of the day without informing me, leaving me alone at the hotel for long stretches. Then the critiques turned to my weight and eating habits, with Julian making snide remarks whenever I chose something other than a poke bowl, all while indulging in rich meals herself. Throughout these incidents, Mark remained silent, at times even struggling to hold back laughter. I felt isolated and ridiculed, eagerly counting down the days until we could return home. The experience of being bullied by his parents, with Mark's passive stance, was unbearable. I knew a serious conversation with him was unavoidable, as my previous attempts to discuss how his family's behavior impacted me had been met with indifference. Determined to address this issue before it further damaged our relationship, I steeled myself for what lay ahead. I planned to confront Mark on our last day in Italy, hoping to make him understand the gravity of our situation. As we prepared to leave, I gathered our passports and tickets, ensuring everything was in order. Mark handed me his documents but seemed to have misplaced mine. Confused and overwhelmed by the stress of the trip, I didn't think too much of it until I went to Julian and Ronald's room to ask about my ticket. When Julie casually mentioned that they had forgotten to purchase my return ticket, I was left stunned. Her flippant "whoops" did nothing to quell the storm brewing inside me. How could they overlook something so crucial? Frustrated, I sought Mark's support, but he offered only a lukewarm apology and a directive from Julie to address him respectfully and find my own solution. It got worse when I learned that the flight they were on was fully booked. I pleaded with Mark to stay back or find an alternative together, but he was adamant about not missing the trip to Greece, citing his obligation to his parents, who had funded our vacation from their retirement savings. As we left Julie and Ronald's room, Mark's silence and avoidance spoke volumes about his priorities. His unwillingness to confront his parents' blatant disregard for me, his wife, was disheartening. Watching him pack with such indifference made me feel abandoned. Not once did he offer to help me secure a return ticket, nor did he apologize for the predicament we were in. I contemplated causing a scene, but the humiliation of the situation had already taken its toll. When the moment came for them to leave, Mark slipped away quietly while Julie and Ronald bid me a cheerful farewell. Anger and disbelief washed over me. Alone in a foreign country without support, I faced the harsh reality of my situation. My frustration was not only directed at Mark's inaction but also at the painful realization that his loyalty lay elsewhere, leaving me to navigate this unexpected challenge on my own. After enduring a month of dismissive behavior and snide remarks, Compounded by Mark's silence, I reached my breaking point. Seeking justice for the disregard and financial exploitation I had faced seemed the only way forward. Mark, who had recently achieved financial stability, had inherited a mortgage from his parents upon their retirement. However, due to his financial constraints, he was unable to maintain payments, and the property was nearing foreclosure. That's when he named me as the next owner, relying on my stable income and strong credit history. Recognizing the depth of the situation, I reached out to my best friend, Nicole. Her husband, Albert, was well versed in property law, making him the perfect ally. Together, through a video call, we devised a plan to gather evidence showing I had been solely responsible for the mortgage payments since the property was transferred to my name. Although I had initially accepted this responsibility to ease Mark's burden, it became clear that he was squandering his funds on frivolous purchases while neglecting his financial obligations. 8 months passed without a single payment from him, and when I finally addressed the issue, it ignited a heated argument where he accused me of envy. Reflecting on my conversation with Albert, it struck me just how blind I had been to Mark's true character. The realization was shocking, prompting Nicole to ask how I had failed to see the signs of Mark's exploitative nature before we married. "My God, Lauren, how did you not realize how horrible Mark was?" she exclaimed in disbelief. I had no clear answer, only the painful acknowledgement of my naivety and misplaced trust. "I don't know. I guess I loved him and refused to see the wrong in his actions," I admitted, grappling with the hard truth. The conversation with Albert served as a wake-up call, revealing the extreme manipulation I had endured and my inadvertent complicity in a situation that had spiraled beyond my control. Now, facing the reality of my circumstances, I was determined to take action. The discussion shifted to practical steps. "You've been handling the mortgage payments for over a year. It's straightforward to transfer the house into your name. Just contact the bank to remove Mark's name," Albert explained, offering to facilitate the process and even prepare an eviction notice to remove Mark and his parents from the property. Grateful for their support, I felt a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. "Albert has his connections. He'll sort everything out before you're back," Nicole assured me, reinforcing the importance of vigilance to avoid future exploitation. With a promise to be more cautious, I contemplated the immediate future. Knowing Mark and his parents had a long layover in Greece provided an unexpected advantage, giving me time to act before they returned. Seizing the opportunity, I booked a flight home within hours, embarking on a journey filled with mixed emotions. Throughout the flight, sadness overwhelmed me as I reflected on my love for Mark, which had been met with betrayal. The thought of serving them with an eviction notice upon their return offered a small consolation, though it brought no joy, only the satisfaction of standing up for myself. I realized they would likely have to cram into the small apartment we shared, especially with our lease ending soon and their limited financial resources for immediate alternatives. This ordeal marked the end of my relationship with Mark and a significant turning point in my life. It was a harsh lesson in love, trust, and the importance of recognizing my worth. Despite the pain, taking decisive action represented a step toward reclaiming my independence and dignity. As I reflected on how Mark and his parents had callously left me stranded in a foreign country, I felt a renewed resolve to follow through with my plan. Guilt-free, their thoughtless actions justified my decision entirely. Upon my return, I discovered they were still 3 hours away from their departure, fueling my determination. My first stop was their house, where I used the spare key hidden under the mat to enter. Once inside, I focused on securing a top-notch divorce attorney. With my laptop in hand, I initiated the divorce proceedings and reached out to Nicole for support. She and Albert quickly responded, coming over to help me finalize the paperwork to remove Mark's name from the property title and prepare the eviction notice. Their visit was a stark reminder of everything I had been holding back since landing. The emotional support they offered was invaluable, guiding me through a whirlwind of feelings in a house filled with memories of Mark. After they left, I managed a few hours of sleep, despite the overwhelming circumstances. When I woke up refreshed yet apprehensive, I dressed and collected the divorce papers from my attorney. The reality of confronting Mark and his parents upon their return loomed large. I steeled myself for the encounter, determined to maintain my composure. Their arrival was marked by confusion and disbelief. "What are you doing here? When did you get back?" Mark asked, feigning concern, but I was done entertaining any pretense of reconciliation. "Save it, you didn't try to answer your question. I returned yesterday, and I'm here for a very specific reason," I replied, my voice steady. Their fatigue from travel did nothing to soften my resolve. "I want you all out of my house," I declared, asserting my ownership. The disbelief and refusal to leave met my unwavering firmness. "This is my house now, since I've been the one making the mortgage payments for the past year," I informed them, holding both the legal and moral high ground. This confrontation was the culmination of a series of betrayals, a moment to reclaim my dignity and autonomy. The support of my friends and the justice of my actions bolstered my strength. As I confronted Mark and his parents, their shock was palpable. They had assumed Mark was managing the mortgage payments. "What? Mark, what is she saying? We thought you were taking care of it," they exclaimed, bewildered by the revelation. I clarified, "He was supposed to, but instead he transferred the responsibility to me. I've been making all the payments because he didn't contribute a single penny. Consequently, I've legally removed him from the ownership, and now the house belongs to me." Their attempts to negotiate their stay were futile. My patience had worn thin. After enduring their constant mistreatment, I stood firm, warning them that any refusal to leave would result in police intervention. As they prepared to leave, I handed Mark the divorce papers, expressing my refusal to remain married to someone who exploited me financially and emotionally. His apologies and pleas were too little, too late. The depth of my hurt and betrayal severed any remaining ties. Watching them exit my life was a bittersweet victory, while their actions left lingering scars. Regaining control and standing up to their abuse marked a significant personal triumph. In the ensuing months, Mark's attempts to contest the divorce proved futile against the financial and emotional costs involved, ultimately leading him to relent. Last I heard, he and his parents had to rely on relatives for shelter until they could find an affordable living situation. Their struggles, while unfortunate, were a direct consequence of their actions, a hard lesson in respecting and valuing those who offer support. Since taking a stand, I've embraced a newfound sense of happiness and empowerment. Though memories of the ordeal occasionally resurface, the satisfaction of having asserted my dignity provides comfort. This chapter of my life, though painful, underscored the importance of self-respect and the strength found in decisively ending toxic relationships.